We are live. We are alive. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this true college football's rebel outpost, the home for the college football sickos. With a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $sign where you make your comments, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. I'm going to give you my opinion, and you are going to give me your opinion. You are going to give me your opinion. Of course, super chat, supersede all. I'll get to the other comments, and I'll get to your phone calls. This Lane Kiffin. What is the word that Lane Kiffin is using? Systematical. Am I saying that word correctly? That's a fancy word. Up here in northern Minnesota, we don't use those fancy words. We don't. I don't. Anything more than two consonants, I have a very difficult time saying the word. Systematical. Is that a word? Lane Kiffin's been using it. I guess it is a word. Systematical. I might not be even saying that correctly. This is a systematical issue, a calendar issue, right? That's what Lane Kiffin is saying. And in large part, he is correct. In large part, he's absolutely correct. But there's another part to this, and it is the Lane Kiffin way. If you missed it, it is breaking news. Breaking news, and we are going to start our live show today. Breaking news. Breaking news. Keith Carter, the Vice Chancellor for Intercollegiate Athletics, the athletic director of Ole Miss, puts out a comment a little bit ago, within the last 30 minutes, I believe. Coach Kiffin and I, again, this is Keith Carter. He just put it out there. Now listen up, guys. Look, I've got my opinion. And it's becoming a stronger opinion. Coach Kiffin and I have had many pointed and positive conversations regarding his future at Ole Miss, including meeting today with Chancellor Boyce. So that was today. Remember, Friday was the meeting. While we discuss the next steps, we know we cannot lose sight of what is most important. Our 6th-ranked team that is poised to finish the regular season in historic fashion. Despite the outside noise, Coach Kiffin is focused on preparing our team for the Egg Bowl. And together, we want to ensure that our players and coaches can concentrate fully on the next Friday's game. This team is on the cusp of an unprecedented season, and it's imperative that they feel support of the Ole Miss family in the week ahead. An announcement on Coach Kiffin's future is expected the Saturday following the game. Let me first start off by saying this. I see there is some very kind super chats. I'll get to them real quick. Just let me put this out here. Let me start off by saying this. It is very likely that Lane Kiffin has had a very difficult time making this decision, like all the other decisions that he has had to make in the past. The latest one between Ole Miss, staying at Ole Miss versus going to Auburn in 2022. So let me start off by saying that this is probably from a very good spot in his heart, in his family. It is very difficult for some people to make decisions, right? These big decisions, right? So let me start off by saying that. And then I'm going to say the other part. I am going to say the other part, and I am fascinated to hear what Christopher Hooter has to say, Danielle, Mr. Hoosier has to say, Mr. Wolverine Flint Dog has to say. What is your opinion about this situation? And then after we talk about the Lane Kiffin, and I think we're gonna have a good discussion on that. It is high drama in Oxford. and in Baton Rouge and in Gainesville. We're going to go, a special thanks to Flint Dog for keeping his head on a swivel as he forwarded me the Sam Webb, who's a Michigan Wolverine beat writer. I think he's at 247, or maybe not. I apologize, whatever. Sam Webb, who talks about Michigan sports, reports on Michigan Wolverine sports, had an interview with Manuel, the athletic director of Michigan. And we're going to go through that we can't show the video, we can't show the interview. I will end up providing the link in the description box below the video. But the Michigan athletic director said a bunch of stuff at the 21-minute mark to about the 32, 33-minute mark. And it isn't what probably a lot of people thought he would say. And we are going to go through that. He definitely does not agree with the Board of Regents at Michigan. He definitely defended Tony Petitti. And he basically, without saying it, but he did kind of say it, that the national reporting of all this, making Tony Petitti the villain and misrepresenting the deal itself, has been horrific. And I've been telling you guys, inside the Big Ten, there is pure, white hot, glowing red, whatever you want to describe it, anger at the rest of the college football world. That's why we are still at DEFCON 1. When you have the Michigan athletic director saying what he said in that Sam Webb interview, you've got to understand. The other 16 universities are piping hot, and they still are. Even yesterday, every day you wake up, there's another national reporter putting out a BS article on what has just transpired in the Big Ten. We had an article yesterday. I could not do a live show. I wanted to, but my schedule, I just could not pull it off yesterday. And I apologize. But there was an article yesterday, I think it was by Zach Barnett, saying that Tony Petitti has spent so much time on the college football playoff ideas and this UC investment, that the Big Ten is in trouble, what they are putting out on the football field. Complete lunacy. Absolute, complete lunacy. And by the way, this Sam Webb interview with Manuel, the athletic director of Michigan, there have been 2 college football reporters who have covered a little bit about that interview since it came out. Neither of those national college football reporters covered the part of the 21-minute mark to the 32-minute mark, in which basically Manuel is telling the reporters, you got it all wrong, brother. It is unbelievable. And that is why, once again, we here at Peek Around the Corner, the most unpopular national college football YouTube channel in the country, this is why we are the true Rebel Outpost. Because we have been reporting to you that inside the Big Ten, they are hot. None of them even want to talk talk to these national reporters, because there has been a narrative pushed that this was not professionally done, that this was not organized, and it wasn't transparent among the Big Ten universities. And yes, there are two schools that are not for it right now. But there is a massive amount of people who have looked at this deal and they believe it's an absolute no-brainer on an unbelievable, massive scale. Manuel in this interview said, this third-party money's coming. Private equity is everywhere. And then Manuel tells everybody, but this is not a private equity deal. He explains why it's not a private equity deal. He basically is telling Bernstein and Acker, the Board of Regents at Michigan, that they are dead ass wrong and the reporters are wrong. And then Manuel says, of course we're going to be in the Big Ten Conference. Where else would we go? He's mocking the idea that Michigan would leave. And he says, of course we're going to be in the Big Ten 20 years from now in 2046. Basically saying the exact opposite of Andy Staples, Ari Wasserman, go right down the list. And that is why John Wilner, all of them, the Michigan athletic director, we're not talking Minnesota, we're not talking Purdue, we're not talking Rutgers, we're talking a Michigan's athletic director is basically saying the opposite that every national college football reporter has said on this story. And this is why the Big Ten is lightning hot. Hot. We'll get into that later on this monologue. First of all, let me go through the very kind super chats to start off this nice, kind, gentle, a more kinder, gentle, fat guy from Minnesota. Hopefully a more kinder. I'm getting a lot of people are upset with me lately because I'm trying to provide some sort of balance on this story. And people are upset with me because I'm trying to do that. Ricky Tungate, Mr. Hoosier, Super Chat. Holy smokes. Thank you for the $10 holler, Mr. Hoosier. I appreciate it. Are you getting ready for the Purdue spoiler makers? Not this weekend, but next weekend. Indiana and Purdue. I got a couple of Purdue Boilermaker friends of mine, and they are very scared. They are very, very scared. Because Indiana's not going to hold back. And nor should they. Why would Indiana hold back? Except to get ready for the Big Ten conference game. But there are plenty of times that Purdue did not hold back playing Indiana. So Indiana ain't going to hold back on Purdue. And they don't expect it, nor should anybody expect it. Thank you, Ricky Tungate, for your $10 holla. Good afternoon, Mr. Greg. Good afternoon, Mr. Ricky. Very much appreciate your generosity once again. We got a super chat. $2 holla. Thank you, Mr. Hooter. Go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers. Hold that tiger. Hold that tiger. Okay. Is LSU the front runner to get Lane Kiffin? We'll get to that in a moment. A lot of people believe that is the case. Kenneth Maynor is saying Lane is gone to Florida. Now, I've had Florida as the chalk all of this time. Did I move the chalk? Have I moved it over to LSU? I'll get to that in a second. Thank you, Christopher Hooter, for the $2 holler. I appreciate it. Kiffin is Gonzo, Jose. Opie says to me they've come to an agreement and to finish the regular season and then part ways. A lot of people agree with OPD, Don. A lot of people agree with them. We got another super chat. John Teal, super chat. This means he's out. Lane Kiffin is out, and I'm eating crawfish today. John Teal, thank you so much for your generosity once again. John Teal might be looking at Lane Kiffin to LSU. Is that possible? Is that possible? Rumor is LSU. And Coach O being in some capacity at LSU. They're buddies from way back from work. I have seen that report from somebody. Kenneth Maynard still believes it's the Gators. Ole Miss should not be in the playoff with Lane Kiffin. Trip Hicks. We're going to talk about that. In fact, that was going to be the main emphasis of our live show yesterday. So we'll just combine all that together. We will just combine all that together. So much whining about reporters. MBM, can't stomach that. Take care. Thank you for dropping in, MBM. Look, a lot of people can't stomach me right now. And I get that. I get that. No problem. Rodney Richboard, go Tigers. Go Tigers. Peek around the Big Ten corner is more like it. MBM, not happy with the show lately. He likes it when I bash Tony Petitti. He likes it when I bash Tony Petitti. But he doesn't like it when I give him support. And I have bashed Tony Petitti. I've also bashed Greg Sankey. I've also given some elbows to Yormark and Phillips because that's what you get on this national show. Unlike me whining about the national reporters because, my goodness, a narrative is being pushed. And I'm gonna yell it out from the highest mountaintop. Greg, do you still have a weekly call with Silent Tony? Never had a weekly call with them. No. But I should. 53% Florida, 40% LSU. Interesting. NBC wanting to sublicense next year's Big Ten championship game. That Big Ten ratings is a major concern. Netflix has already declined the offer. Thanks to you for coming in, Edward the Auburn Tiger. Appreciate it. Mr. Dong Scruggs. Again, YouTube has changed everybody's names around here, so now I gotta figure all that out again. Thank you, Don Scruggs, for coming on in. Thank you, Mr. Buckeye, Greg. Thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Seminole, Daniel Gorby is in the house. Yes, LSU is the front runner. Yeah, and I did not like it. Greg, did you see the nod to Wrigley on Minnesota's helmets? Minnesota Golden Gophers helmets have that vine out. They have this colored green vine going through their helmets. I don't like it at all. I do not like it at all. Now, again, I'm bashing Minnesota. Again, people do not like when I bash my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers, calling them the worst 6-4 team in the country. Nobody likes me. Nobody likes me in the chat. Nobody likes me. Let's see. All right. Did I get everybody Tom DeBay? Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Phenomenal Brew. Thanks for coming on in. BYU football. Thank you, sir. Flint Dog. He's also stated it's not about the money. It's about the government and the structure of the deal for Michigan. It's about their local deals. Yep. Yeah, that's correct. We'll get to that later, Flint. He talked about a lot of things. Still has to be worked out, and maybe they get the deal done. Maybe they don't. We've got another super chat. Thank you, John Teal. Appreciate it. John Teal, Lane Kiffin is about to turn heel with Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry like Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. Alliance adding Coach O, and he's Kurt Angle. Let me see if I can give you an old-time wrestling... I'm trying to think back. Let me go back here. I'm thinking about the old wrestling angle where Nick Bockwinkel, AWA champion, who was the heel forever, for decades, is in the ring against a very young Curt Hennig. And Curt Hennig could not beat him. He could not beat him. He was getting frustrated. Draw after draw after. And finally, this Curt Hennig and Nick Bockwinkel wrestling for the AWA championship. And there is Larry Zbyszko on the outside. That would be the governor of Louisiana. LSU University, all tied into one. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Larry Zbyszko, while Curt Hennig comes out of the ring a little bit, Larry Zbyszko looks like he shakes the hand of Curt Hennig, which would be Lane Kiffin. And then Curt Hennig gets back in the ring and hits Nick Bockwinkel with a punch. Nick Bockwinkel goes down. Curt Hennig, 1, 2, 3. Nobody knew of Curt Hennig, who's Lane Kiffin in the story, was heel, or did he win it as a face, or did he turn heel? Nobody knew. The referee came over to Larry Zbyszko, brought him in the ring, said, "Did you help Curt Hennig cheat?" And then suddenly, Curt Hennig then handshook Larry Zbyszko. Whatever was in Curt Hennig's hands went back to Zbyszko. Zbyszko put it in his pockets. The referee tugged at the pockets of Larry Zbyszko, and out comes a bunch of quarters. A roll of quarters came out of Larry Zbyszko's pockets all over the ring floor. Larry Zbyszko is LSU. Curt Hennig is Lane Kiffin. The referee is Keith Carter, and Nick Bockwinkel, unfortunately, is Ole Miss. That's the best I got. Okay, back in the day. All right. So let's get to it. Thank you, John Till. Thank you for the $2 holla. I appreciate it. First, before we go into Keith Carter's statement, in which I really want to give you my opinion on it, and then I want to hear your opinion on it. Chris Vanini, I'm just going to go through part of this article this morning. A little bit of the article this morning. The coaching carousel is heating up. Decisions are imminent. Zoom interviews are frequent. And everybody is waiting on Lane Kiffin. Why Lane Kiffin has to make his mind up soon? Again, we're just going to take a little bit apart of this article. It was only a matter of time before the Kiffin's balancing act spilled into the public and became a mess for everyone involved. From the moment that South Florida upset Florida and made clear that the Gators would move on from Billy Napier, this was always going to be the result. And after all the work done to rehabilitate his image, Kiffin is now stringing people along and upsetting almost everyone in the process. Kiffin has done this dance before. 3 years ago, he flirted with the Auburn ahead of the season-ending Egg Bowl. Kiffin ultimately stayed, and Ole Miss boosters upped their name, image, and likeness, spending to help him, but the Rebels lost to Mississippi State to cap a stretch run collapse. The difference this time is that Ole Miss is nearing the end of one of the best seasons in school history. In Kiffin's impending decision, he's put a shadow on that celebration. I am going to circle back to that sentence. Kiffin's impending decision has put a shadow on that celebration. The Rebels' playoff odds sit at 96%. Yet Kiffin may cross the coaching carousel Rubicon of leaving a national championship contender for another job before the season ends. If a team wanted a playoff coach, this was bound to happen, Kiffin said Wednesday during the contentious SEC coaches teleconference. Just looking from the outside, not talking about myself, there's a systematical problem. Lane Kiffin, systematical. It used to be players were in it, and they still are a bit with the portal timing. And look at Penn State quarterback Bo Pibula a year ago. That's a systematical issue, a calendar issue. The subject is probably, until something changes, gonna be an issue for years. Lane Kiffin is correct, right? It is a systematical issue. It is a calendar issue. But I got a big but. There's another part of the story. And again, Kiffin can limit the calendar, but as industry sources have pointed out, he's not a backup quarterback or group of five coach considering a career-altering move without a real chance at winning it all. Ole Miss does not have that shot. And any school Kiffin would leave for would pay him relatively the same amount of money as Ole Miss can, with no guarantee he'll get as far as he is right now. So what if Kiffin doesn't make a choice before or shortly after the Egg Bowl? Again, we have heard from Carter that we'll know the decision after the Egg Bowl. What can Ole Miss actually do? They won't fire him and deal with the cost of that, but the Rebels have a plan, if necessary. Defensive coordinator Pete Golding or quarterback coach Joe Judge, and I think it would be Joe Judge, are the most likely interim head coaches according to industry sources. Judge spent 2 years as the New York Giants coach, and coincidentally is a Mississippi State alum. And finally in the article, the part that we're going to cover, but along with the playoff run, the Rebels must also be prepared for the coaching search process, which is why they need Kiffin to make up his mind. Sumrall is in the mix for other SEC jobs, but he's also a former Ole Miss assistant and would be a top target for the Rebels if Kiffin moved on. Ole Miss can't wait around too long and see its top options come off the board. The Rebels' spending on the roster has dramatically improved the quality of the job. Okay, so that was an article earlier today. And now, right before we came on live, the breaking news. The breaking news, again, Keith Carter. I'm going to give you my opinion on it right now. Coach Kiffin and I have had many pointed and positive conversations regarding his future at Ole Miss, including meeting today with Chancellor Boyce. While we discuss the next steps, we know we cannot lose sight of what is most important, our sixth-ranked team that is poised to finish the regular season in historic fashion. Despite the outside noise, and a lot of it is inside noise, Coach Kiffin is focused on preparing our team for the Egg Bowl. And together we want to ensure that our players and coaches can concentrate fully on next Friday's game. This team is on the cusp of an unprecedented season, and it's imperative they feel the support of the Ole Miss family in the week ahead. An announcement on Coach Kiffin's future is expected the Saturday following the game. Okay. An announcement on Coach Kiffin's future is expected the Saturday following the game. An announcement. Not a decision, but an announcement. It is my opinion that if Lane Kiffin was staying at Ole Miss and they knew it, this would have been written differently. If they thought that Lane Kiffin, there was a chance that Lane Kiffin was going to stay at Ole Miss, I believe this would have been written different. If they had come to an agreement that Lane Kiffin, for the betterment of the team and his contract, and he's going to stay with the team throughout Friday, and the announcement of Coach Lane Kiffin leaving would come on Saturday, this is how I would have written the letter as the athletic director. This letter, in my opinion only, it is written like a decision has been made. Lane Kiffin is going to announce he's leaving on Saturday after the Egg Bowl. They don't want to switch horses in midstream right now. They don't want to tell the players before the Egg Bowl because there is a chance, not much of a chance, but there is a chance that if Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State, that they might not make the playoffs. So to me, it's a sort of compromise. Not really an ultimatum, but kind of. Lane Kiffin trying to go out the right way, kind of. Lane Kiffin would leave on Saturday and start working for his new employer. And then Ole Miss would be able to go into the playoffs with probably Joe Judge as their head coach. You cannot have Lane Kiffin coaching Ole Miss in the playoffs if he is not going to be their head coach next. I mean, you can't have Lane Kiffin be the head coach of Ole Miss while he's making phone calls as the head coach of Florida or LSU. I think we can all agree with that. The question is, can you have Lane Kiffin be the head coach against Mississippi State if he's leaving? That is the question in my mind. Should he even be the coach now? But then again, you do not want to lose this. You can't afford to lose this game. You're going to be the favorite. It's not a slam dunk against your rival. But I'm very interested to hear what you all have to say. I'm very interested to hear what is going on in Oxford. I've been listening to some of the podcasts the last couple of days. Lock on Ole Miss, another couple of guys. People are getting a little angry. Now people are getting a little angry at this. Basically saying, thank you very much, Lane Kiffin, but if you do not know if you want to stay at this point, you can leave now. We'll take over. We appreciate what you've done for the program. The program structurally, internally, is at a much better position now than before Lane Kiffin got there. Thank you very much. But this whole thing has been an incredible distraction. So I think he's leaving. But and I might end up being wrong, but I think he's leaving. And I think all of us, or most of us, can come to this consensus. I think we all can come to this consensus. If Lane Kiffin decides to stay at Ole Miss, continue to coach at Oxford, Mississippi, if that's his final decision, if that's what happens, he has not made that decision today. Like, this is not how you go about it. Like, this is not what you do. This is not what you do if you're going to stay. So even if he does end up staying, this was probably the worst way to do it. Like, if you haven't made your decision to stay yet, you are putting a lot, you are already gambling on Mississippi, right? Like, of course this is a distraction. Of course it is. Now that may not turn that Ole Miss victory in the Egg Bowl as a defeat, but of course this is a distraction. Of course this is hurting recruiting. Of course everybody's wondering what the hell's going on. So I think he's leaving. I don't think Eric Carter writes that type of letter. Eric Carter, did I say that? Keith Carter. I don't believe Mr. Carter writes that letter, that comment with the idea that Lane Kiffin is staying. I just can't believe that. So I think he's leaving. I will get to the leaving part where I think he's going next. But I also want to talk about this. There have been reports, multiple reports out there, that if Lane Kiffin leaves after the Ole Miss game, after the Egg Bowl game, and Ole Miss finishes 11-1, and is most likely going to be sitting at the 6th seed, maybe the 5th seed, probably the 6th seed. For the sake of argument, let's say it's the 6th seed. Would the departure of Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, would that hurt Ole Miss Rebels seeding for the playoffs? Would it hurt it? Should it hurt it? Now let me take the easy one first. Should it hurt Ole Miss's seeding in the playoffs? Could they go from a 6th seed and having a home game against the ACC champion versus dropping down to being a 9th seed and not having a home game in the first round and playing either Oregon or Notre Dame on the road? Should that happen? I don't think it should happen. Of course I don't think it should happen. Of course it should. Whatever Ole Miss is seeded should be because of what they've done during the regular season. Not some projection, not some by Vegas lines. It should be, what have you done? In Ole Miss going 11-1, if they do beat Mississippi State, I don't care if they lose their head coach. It should not be that way. It should not be that they lose their starting quarterback. But that's where we're at, right? What it should be and what it could be are two different things. If Florida State is going to get penalized by going 13-0 and losing to the starting quarterback, and they don't get a spot in the playoffs because they lost their starting quarterback, it did not have anything to do with what Florida State accomplished during the season, then of course, if that's what happened to Florida State, well, that is what should happen, what could happen to Ole Miss. And that's what they've said. They've said that this is going to be part of the criteria that the selection committee, this is going to be part of their process in seeding the team. So, if Ole Miss comes out and they lose Lane Kiffin, and then Joe Judge becomes the head coach, and they remain as a 6 seed, well, what the hell, right? Why didn't Ole Miss get knocked down? Because they lost the head coach. Now, of course, I don't think they should. But if that's what you did to Florida State, that's what you're going to have to do to Ole Miss. Right? You're going to have to drop Ole Miss down according to your psychobabble that is part of your process. And if you do move Ole Miss down, how far do you move them down? What is the penalty of losing your head coach? This is crazy. But this is the precedent that you set. When you penalize Florida State, you didn't even have them go in the playoffs because they lost their starting quarterback. And by the way, in 2014, the Buckeyes won it all with their third-string quarterback. That's the precedent that you set. And now if Ole Miss loses their head coach, Lane Kiffin, after the Egg Bowl, and Ole Miss goes 11-1, and they remain the 6th seed after the final seeding, Paul Feinbaum, you better explain it to everybody. Kirk Herbstreit, you better explain it to everybody. Reese Davis, you better explain it to everybody. You better say, well, yeah, I don't know. You better be consistent. So I want to hear your thoughts on that as well. Okay, so what do you think about Lane Kiffin? What do you think is going to happen? And then finally on the Lane Kiffin part of this monologue, you absolutely, in my strong opinion, and I screamed at the top of my lungs at the time, Florida State got screwed. So where do I think Lane Kiffin ends up? I think he's going to, I have flipped. I have flipped my Lane Kiffin commitment to Florida. I believe that Lane Kiffin is going to end up at LSU. I think he's going to be the new coach of LSU. And I think Florida is going to go into a different direction. I think they're going to lose out. And I think they're probably going to end up with John Summerall. That is my prediction. I have switched. I've had Florida the whole time. But I think it's going to be LSU that gets Lane Kiffin. I think, again, going back to AWA wrestling, Larry Zbyszko is the Louisiana governor. He hands off a roll of quarters to Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig hits Nick Bockwinkel, who's Ole Miss. Kurt Hennig is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin becomes the champion, and he becomes the new head coach of the LSU Tigers. So that is my thoughts on it. Let me get to your thoughts. And then we're going to talk a little bit Michigan, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. Super Chat, OP, T-Down. Yeah. Opie, if Tulane gets in the college football playoffs, Summerall could and would leave as well too before they play a game. Okay. All right, Opie, let's dig into that. Think about this, guys. Tulane wins the American. They are considered a higher seed than James Madison in the Sun Belt. But Summerall leaves. John Summerall takes a job at Florida or somewhere else. Does that bring down Tulane's seeding to where James Madison makes the playoffs? Or is that too dramatic? What if John Sumrall leaves before the American Championship game, Tulane still wins the American Championship game, but what if that affects Tulane to the point where James Madison makes the playoffs? Woo! Are there any other examples of a coach possibly leaving before the playoffs begin and they would be a head coach of a playoff team? Cope, super chat. Whoops, I did not mean that. My bad. Opie, thank you so much for your generosity, OPD Don. A beautiful comment. Cope, I hope Lane Kiffin doesn't pull a Lincoln Riley and purposely lose to the in-state rival to bolt elsewhere. I think what Cope is thinking that Oklahoma purposely lost to Oklahoma State. I think that's what Cope is saying. Cope, let me know in the chat room if that is what I think you're saying. I don't think Lane Kiffin is going to purposely lose to anybody. I just think that this might be the great compromise somewhat between Kiffin and the athletic director. Look, and here's another. Okay, so thank you so much for the super chat, Cope. I very much appreciate it. You know what? Maybe he truly has not made a decision yet. Okay? Maybe Lane Kiffin truly has not made a decision yet. But if he has made a decision to leave Ole Miss, let's say that is true. How do we go from today, this Friday, November 21st, to next Friday, November 28th, without that leaking? That's going to leak. Let's say he's made a decision to go to LSU. And he's let LSU know that he's going to LSU. I mean, it ain't just about not leaking it from the Ole Miss side. It's not leaking it from the LSU side. Thank you, Cope. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so very much. Jimmy Austin, if Kiffin leaves before the playoff is set, Ole Miss drops out of the playoffs. Them the breaks. Wow. Oregon Duck, Jimmy Austin. Would they punish Ole Miss that much? 6th seed all the way out of the playoffs? OBD Don, super chat. Well, leave it to my state. Since Huey P. Long, they can surely mess up the college football world. Yes, they can. But how much is this LSU's fault? It really isn't their fault, right? LSU's without a head coach. And I know you're not saying your Tigers are the fault of this. LSU Tigers are looking for a head coach. They're looking for a head coach. They got to get in the game. They got to get in the coaching carousel. That's why you fired Brian Kelly so early on. So you can get in there, so your agent can call the top targets. And if Lane Kiffin has said, I don't know yet, and LSU keeps pursuing because they believe Lane Kiffin is the top target, can't really blame LSU. And I don't think you can really blame Ole Miss for saying, thank you, but we got to have a decision here before the playoffs. You can't have Lane Kiffin be the coach of LSU and be the coach of Ole Miss in the playoffs. I don't think you can blame Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, though, you got to make a decision. And I think maybe he is there. I think maybe he's there. It doesn't sound like he's staying at Ole Miss. If you were staying at Ole Miss, you would have already had the fanfare of saying you're staying at Ole Miss. You would have had a press conference. You would have said it on the Pat McAfee show. Right? You could have this boost of adrenaline, this boost of juice, this juice of positivity at Oxford as you head into the Egg Bowl. You're not, look, this to me, this letter from Keith Carter, the athletic director of Ole Miss, it is written like a decision was made that he's leaving Ole Miss. If he was staying at Ole Miss, if there was a chance that he is staying at Ole Miss, let me repeat that. Let me say, if they knew that he was staying at Ole Miss, the announcement would be before the game against Mississippi State, not after. It would be before against their rival to be 11-1, to have their best year ever. I mean, for Ole Miss to be in the playoffs, Ole Miss, they would have this announcement before they play those evil, dreadful rival Mississippi State. It would not be, afterwards. Again, I do not know what the people of Ole Miss are thinking. We came on this live show. Some Ole Miss Rebel fan, please come on into the chat room. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. LSU Tigers, Opie, and Christopher Hooter, and Ryan Brooks, let me know what people of LSU are thinking with your phone calls. I think if I was an LSU Tiger, I would be thinking that we got him. But then again, I'm a schmuck. I'm very naive. I'm always thinking the most positive, like, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. You LSU Tiger fans are more mature. You've had success. You've won national champions. You know the comings and the goings of high stake drama in college football. Maybe you think, well, maybe we have a chance. But I think you've got him. I think you've got him. That's just my opinion. That is my opinion. No inside information. Thank you, Opie. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your generosity. Kenneth Maynard, Super Chat. There needs to be limits on coaches leaving playoff teams before their playoff run ends, especially G6 coaches. Extremely unfair to those fans. If you set that precedent, it will be a yearly thing. And I think it is going to be a yearly thing. This is going to happen a lot, especially the G6 coaches. And I think the only way you can solve this, the only way you can solve the portal from January 2nd to January 16th, the only way to solve all these issues, the coaches, the player, the portal, the coaching carousel, is to move up the calendar 2 to 3 weeks. You got to move up. You got to have the start of the season way earlier and the end of the season way early. You've got to end the season in the first week of January. To really solve all these issues, in my opinion. Thank you, Kenneth Maynard. Thank you for the $10 holla. I do very much appreciate it, sir. East Carolina, they're still in it. We made a pick on the East Carolina game. We'll get to that in a second. Cope, $20 holla. Thank you, Cope. I appreciate your generosity once again today. Holy smokes. This choice for Lane Kiffin would be so much easier if the transfer portal window was pushed back to February. Again, it is difficult. So when they're talking about the transfer portal window, they're also talking about when does that semester start for universities that you can come in as a student. That's why February won't work. That's why March won't work. That's why the choices were either April, late April, going into the next semester, or early January. That's why the choices were between those two portal windows. Both of those choices had pros and cons to them. And the Big Ten wanted April, and the other three Power Four conferences wanted early January. Pros and cons both ways. The only way to really solve all this, to solve the playoffs, not to go head-to-head with the NFL, a lot of issues, is to move up the college football season. Start it in the second week of August, where it's 112 degrees in some parts of the country. But you got to start it earlier to solve a lot of these problems. But that's just my opinion. Cope, thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you very, very much. Great comments by Cope, Kenneth Maynard, and OPD Don. Holy smokes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, John Teal, Christopher Hooter, Ricky Tungate. Very much appreciate it. And we've got some memberships. The Evil Badger. The Evil Badger is getting ready. And he might be onto something. Or he's on something. Membership for 23 months, the Evil Badger. You are officially knighted, cloak and dagger. Wisconsin teams will dominate Minnesota teams November 23rd and the 29th. Packers by 5 touchdowns. Badgers will be chopping down the goalposts. Woo! My prediction is that Wisconsin Badger Gopher game is going to be a very low scoring game. Very low scoring game. We're talking about 10-9. 10-9 football game. Thank you, Eva Badger. I know you're getting excited. I know that you feel that you can beat the Golden Gophers. But Minnesota is keeping the axe, baby. Minnesota is keeping the axe. We've got USC Trojan. Fight out. You are officially knighted, cloak and dagger, Jose. Thank you very much. Jack Wagon, Pat Hayden made his dumbest decision in Tarmac and Kiffin. Lane is only getting started. Wishing him the best. Wow, Jose. He's a Lane Kiffin fan. I have a love. What type of relationship do I have with Lincoln Riley? I don't want to say love-hate because I don't hate him. I have a love-confused type of relationship with Lincoln Riley. Basically the same type of relationship I have with the Little General. Lover, but sometimes I'm confused. I have the same relationship with Lincoln Riley with a few different. Okay. Anyways, I think Lincoln Riley. I think USC. I think USC. Let me put it this way. I think the other teams that are slated to go to the college football playoffs, projected to go to the college football playoffs, have a chance to go to the college football playoffs. I think all of you should root for Oregon to beat USC. That's all I'm going to say. because USC is the great wild card. If they get in the playoffs, you do not want to be, okay, let me put it to you this way. You do not want to be 7th seeded Oklahoma facing 10th seeded USC. That's all I'm going to say. Oklahoma, very good season, very good football team. Changed up a little bit after John Material's hand injury. I see those yardage differences in those games that they've been playing. They've been eking out and winning. A USC team, I would have them beating Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma. Sorry. I would have USC probably beating Ole Miss as the 7th, 10th seed. If Lane Kiffin, if Ole Miss gets brought down one from 6th to 7th seed. I know you all think I'm crazy, but this USC team is that close to being a really, really, really good team. And they might be a really, really good team a couple weeks from now. That Oregon game, you want Oregon to shut the door down on USC. You want Oregon to beat USC. You want Oregon to beat USC. To the other fan bases in the playoffs, you do not want the Ducks and the Trojans both in the playoffs. That Trojan offense, that running game, and then they got that lemon on the outside. USC is nasty good on offense. Like I say, Texas Tech Raiders are nasty good on defense. USC Trojans are nasty good on offense when they got everything going. And then, of course, you look at Lincoln Riley and USC sitting there with the number 1 rated high school recruiting class. Lincoln Riley's got it going. He's absolutely got it going. All right. Okay. Imagine Coach Riley going into Norman. Yeah. I probably got some people upset with me. Okay, before we get to your phone calls, let's just talk. And I know a lot of people are upset with me. MBM has already left the chat room. People are mad at me. But I got to talk about it because, well, nobody else is going to talk about it. Sam Webb, interview with Ward Manuel, the athletic director of Michigan. I'm not going to spend much time on this. But if you go to Sam Webb at 7-7, listen to this 51-minute interview. But take note between the 21-minute mark and the 32-minute mark of this interview. Ward Manuel has a lot to say. And I put bullet points up here. Ward Manuel stands up for the Big Ten Commish. Ward Manuel says the commissioner is not the villain that he's being perceived. He stood up for the commissioner. In other words, complete disagreement with the Michigan Board of Regents. He said Tony Petitti is doing exactly what he should be doing. Bringing up ideas, bringing them to the 18 schools, and we vote on them. Plain and simple. Ward Manuel mocks the idea of Michigan leaving to the Big Ten. At one point in this interview, Ward Manuel looks at Sam Webb and basically does this. Where would we go? Where do you think we would go? Of course we're not leaving the Big Ten. He talks about how Michigan has been part of the Big Ten for 129 years. How they are part of the 2 power conferences. Michigan is completely aligned with the Big Ten. The leadership of Michigan have a different idea about this UC investment deal. Ward Manuel went on to explain the deal and is not happy with the reporting of the deal. That becomes extremely obvious in what Ward Manuel said. He says it's not a private equity deal, and he describes the difference between a private equity deal and what UC investment deal shows. Ward Manuel talks about how maybe everybody can open up and try to get it to be a better deal. So Ward Manuel's not giving up on this deal. He does say that there's 16 schools that want the deal, and they have reasons to want the deal. And he also said that Ohio State has some governance issues with the deal. And Michigan wants to know what can they do as a standalone school when it comes to advertising and what they have to put basically into the pot when it comes to the Big Ten enterprises. There are questions there from Michigan and Ohio State. But again, Ward Manuel is saying, Ward Manuel, again, explains college football is changing and believes some sort of deal will happen. He talks about how all this third-party money is coming in everywhere in sports. Everywhere. And people are taking advantage of it. People are taking advantage of it. And he says it's coming in. Don't know how it's going to look like. Don't know what the structure is going to look like. Don't know if it's going to be a lot like what this UC investment is. But it's coming in. And he absolutely slaps away the Super League concept. Ward Manuel absolutely slaps away the Super League. He says, don't you know that the Super League would have had private equity bringing in billions of dollars and they would have taken control? And he says UC investment would not have control. They would not tell the Big Ten what to do. They would be just a stake owner in figuring out larger revenue streams, more revenue streams. So again, Ward Manuel, the athletic director of Michigan, basically says to the college football reporters in this interview, you've got everything wrong. Almost everything wrong. But we have complete support of Tony Petitti. And I really do believe if you read the comments of Bernstein and even a little bit of Acker yesterday in the Michigan when they put out a public statement, you could tell that Ward Manuel and other people at Michigan basically told those two guys to back off. That is my speculation. But the way that Ward Manuel came out and stood up for the commissioner and basically told everybody else who was bashing him that they were wrong, you could tell that Ward Manuel, that the pro-Big Ten faction of Michigan, which of course is monstrous, faculty, research, they're not going to leave the Big Ten. And so they're like, you could tell that Ward Manuel was talking for a lot of people at the University of Michigan that have not had their voice heard because we've only heard from Bernstein and Acker. So yes, it is very difficult to get a big conference aligned, 18 schools to agree on anything. And maybe they can agree on something at the very end of the day, maybe they can't. But Michigan is not even aligned. Of course they're not. I wanted to bring this up. People are upset with me. People are very sensitive. But I wanted to bring this up because, again, this was Michigan's athletic director with an interview with Sam Webb. And once again, the national reporters are not covering it because it's not the narrative that they want to cover. Again. All right. So there's that. If the little general is watching, you might be sleeping on the couch. I think the chances, Gary, that the little general is watching is pretty slim because we are going to a wedding tomorrow. You heard me right. We are going to a wedding tomorrow. So she is getting everything ready for that. Greg, will anything come about Congress questioning universities' tax exemption is brought up during the capital negotiations? Possibly. Yep, I saw that. Possibly. The Senator Cantwell bringing that up. It could. It could. Jake Rasloff in Tulane. Yeah, this college football playoffs is going to be full of drama. No question about it. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. 763 260 1333. 763 260 1333. Let me know what you think, what's going to happen with Lane Kiffin. Do you think he's made a decision? If he has made a decision, where is he going to end up going?
From Evil Badger.
The Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, is on the line. The floor is yours. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing okay, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
Good deal.
I found out a couple things about the latest about what's going on at with on the football. So Ted Kellner, the big donor for the Wisconsin sports programs, has said that they're going to be in the top third of the conference spending for next year. But he doesn't explain how he's going to make sure that they do that, because what they're going to do, and from what I understand from the videos that I've watched, or from interviews that they've done at ESPN Wisconsin, has said that they're going to use more of the rev share for the to acquire players, which they haven't really done much of, and then use the NIL as incentive for sticking around. And I'm like, that ain't gonna work. And now, about a month ago when I ripped Tim Brando for really not knowing what was going on with the program, I guess Wisconsin has put an ad for a alumni liaison to go between the football program and alumni and high school coaches. Hello?
Yep, I'm listening.
And I'm like, you should have done that a long time ago. Because
no, first of all, Ryan Willie, the whole spending thing, I think pretty much all the Big Ten schools rev share money for football is going to fall somewhere between $12 and $15 million, right? Some of the other rev share money has to go to the other sports. The NIL money, that is going to be the major difference between Wisconsin and some other schools. But even that difference is going to be shrunken a little bit because of the Deloitte clearinghouse, and the bigger deals are not being approved. So there's going to be a smaller difference between those NIL deals. And of course, when you have whatever conference you're talking about, everybody, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, you have to do this, but everybody's promising more and more and more money being put in these programs. But of course, for every win, there is a loss in the conference, no matter how much money you spend.
Right.
So for Wisconsin, yeah, money may be part of the problem. Most a large part of the problem because he has
head coaches around the state, and he really doesn't want to recruit in state, and that's where he gets the big boys from for the offensive and defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of them going to Minnesota or Iowa or Indiana, because in the last couple of days, Wisconsin has lost. They're having a line committed for 2026. They're decommitted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now they're trying to get things going after when it's too late.
Well, maybe it's not too late. You know, a lot of things can change here, right? A lot of things can change in your 2026 recruiting. You know, it can change pretty quickly. So I know it's pretty late, but it ain't too late. Not yet.
What is it? About a week and a half until signing day?
Yeah, I mean, it's late, but you can turn it around. I understand your concern. And I get it.
Well, that's all I had. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Ryan Willie.
Right.
Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Rick is on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling, Rick. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Greg. I think Lane's playing the game, and he's played the game a long time.
Yeah.
He's currently dating a brunette, and he's got the eye of a blonde and a redhead. And of course, he's telling them how beautiful they all are. But what's really going on is Dad, better known as his agent, the most ruthless agent in college football, Jimmy Sexton, is well aware, just like Lane is, of where he's going. Because Lane and Jimmy Sexton knew the answer to that question weeks ago. So, with 8 days to go, the agent is playing the final offer game with LSU against Ole Miss and the Gators, and playing the game of the Gators against Ole Miss and LSU, and playing the game of Ole Miss against LSU and the Gators. Because it doesn't really matter which one that Lane picked. Pick whichever one you want. It doesn't matter. What he wants is the most that he can get from that school.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, I'm just speculating here. I'm just speculating. I don't know anything. But I'm going to go ahead and guess that the final offers are in. Sexton has done his work, and now everyone's waiting for an answer. And I don't think Lane Kiffin is dragging this out to get another more of an offer from another school.
Well, I'll tell you why I disagree with that.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter. If he's already chosen the Gators. He's going to go there for $13 million, $14 million, or $15 million. It doesn't matter. That's what he wants. All Sexton is doing is trying to get him as much as he can from the Gators. So he's talking to LSU, and he's talking to Ole Miss, and he's saying, I got good news and I got bad news.
Mm-hmm.
Good news is, Ole Miss, you're not in last place. The bad news is you're not in first. So you got to come in stronger. And then he goes, takes it back to Florida and says, hey, they've matched your offer. You've got to up it a bit. And the upping isn't always the money. It can be the number of years. It can be the private jet, that how many hours do you get per year, all of the goodies that go with it.
Yep.
But the agent works right up until the very end to get the best deal possible.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the decision, he's already known for weeks. But he can't show his hand. He's got to let his agent do his job. Thanks for taking the call.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Great call. So maybe a decision has not been made yet. Okay, let me get back to hold on one second here. Everybody give me a moment. Okay. The audience can't hear the calls. Okay. I was not able to test the phone before we came on. I apologize for that. Let me just shut down the phone lines then. Let me just get back to the comments and the super chats. Every once in a while, I do not test the phone calls. And sure enough, when I don't test it, Jose could hear them. Kind of weird. Let me get back. A lot of people could not hear it, so we'll just turn that off. No, it's not my wedding. It's not my wedding. Very good young man and a young lady are getting married tomorrow, and we are going to go to the wedding. BYU football. It's absolutely a private equity deal. The equity is 10% of the Big Ten. I would invite you, BYU football, and anybody else to go listen to Ward Manuel have that interview with Sam Webb. Ward Manuel from the 21-minute mark to the 32-minute mark. And early in that 21-minute mark, Ward Manuel describes why this is not a private equity deal, or at least not in the way that people think when they think of private equity. He gave all the differences between the deals. He said private equity usually goes like a 5-7 year term, wants a 15-20% return. This UFC investment is a long-term plan, 15 years, at least 15 years, maybe 20, and then possibility of going to 100 years. And he talks about the differences. Private equity, they would not have any decision controls on the operations of the Big Ten, which is unlike private equity coming in for 5 to 7 years trying to get 15-25% of return. But you go ahead and watch, listen to it, make up your own mind. But the athletic director of the university that voted against it, I think you're going to be surprised what he has to say. He has built something great at Ole Miss. Why leave? Well, it's that old adage, Bo Weevil. These head coaches are really competitive dudes. really competitive dudes. And they want to go somewhere that has just a little bit more resources or a little bit better of a recruiting bed, because they believe if they had that, nothing would stop them because they are so competitive. But I do understand what you're saying. DTs, thanks for coming on in. Meanwhile, other conferences, 0% equity in their media deal, but giving someone 10% is bad. Okay, well, you can look at it that way, but it ain't just about the media deal, right? It ain't just about the media deal. Again, the philosophy has been if you bundle up your content, your conference's content, you have better leverage when dealing with the media companies versus if you stand alone. That has been proven over and over and over and over and over again. Like literally all the time. That's why the conference networks are a lot better for every Big Ten, every university versus putting out your own third tier content alone. Same with first tier content. Bundling up your media stuff together is way more valuable. So what if you bundle up your purchasing power, your leverage, not purchasing power, your leverage when you are putting out bids on your jersey patch, sponsorship, inside stadium, conference wide, putting a certain logo on everybody's football field. You would have your own, but you would have a Big Ten conference wide. You would have a Big Ten enterprises that would be making all those deals with leverage of 18 schools. And then if you think about why do you have a grant of rights? Why does the Big 12 have a grant of rights? Why does the ACC have a grant of rights? The grant of rights is a way to leverage your media content. Saying, yes, we're all going to be together, so you better pay us. We're giving you security. You better give us top dollar. So if you're going into media negotiations in 2029, and again in 2036, and again in 2041, and you have a grant of rights all the way set out to 2046, you're gaining more leverage. It's a leverage play. And by the way, this goes back, and another example goes all the way back to the creation of the Big Ten Network. Fox was the sugar daddy on that deal. They put up all this money on this deal. They created the Big Ten Network. They built the studios. They bought the cameras, the technology. And the Big Ten schools went 5 or 6 years without any revenue payment from their Big Ten third tier TV content. They didn't get any money. All the money that the Big Ten Network created went back to Fox to pay it off, while other schools with their standalone third tier deals were getting $600,000, $800,000, $1 million, and everybody was laughing at the Big Ten for making this deal with Fox on this conference network. Well, lo and behold, the conference network worked. 99% of the college football reporters mocked the idea. Everybody outside the Big Ten mocked the idea. Big Ten schools went 6 years without any money. But in the long term, because you created the Big Ten Network and you bundled your content together and you paid back Fox, you made way more money on the deal, way more money. And that is the thought process here. Somebody's coming in. They're giving you a cash infusion. There's going to be a board member on the Big Ten Enterprises who has expertise, a CEO with expertise outside of the core of the conference. And the thought is you're going to make more money in the long run. Same reason why the Southeastern Conference has met with different firms, the Big 12, the ACC, Everyone is looking for a strategic partner. And I got to tell you guys something. If you're going to bring a strategic partner in and you want them motivated to make money, you give them a stake. You got to give them a stake. Of course. If this deal would ever happen, UC Investment would have a 10% stake and they would be highly motivated to make their money back and way more. And if they were successful, so would the Big Ten schools be successful. And my last question is, are most people against this deal because they think it's not going to work? Or are most people against this deal because they are afraid it is going to work? Working during the first call? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I wish I did. Solar Knoll, Lane will go to the school that gives him the most control. Interesting. 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 Can't hear the caller there in the background, not on the stream. Okay, let me try it again here. Let me open up the phone lines. Somebody call in, somebody yell at me, and we'll see if the phone lines work. 763-260-1333. Somebody give me a call. Let me know what you're thinking about college football, anything college football. And then people in the chat room, let me know if you can hear the call. The Longhorn Network was a failure. Absolutely it was. 100%. And this is why, Solar Knoll. This is why. Texas, yes, they were able to get a whole bunch of money off the deal. For Disney, it was horrific. It was a losing proposition. They were losing money on the deal. And the Texas Longhorns, while they made money, they lost the content war. They lost the exposure war. The Longhorn Network was never going to have the reach as an SEC network. The Southeastern Conference Network. The Longhorns would never trade the Longhorn Network for the Southeastern Conference Network. Even though the Southeastern Conference Network is 16 schools. So here's one great example. The Longhorn Network could not provide enough live content. They had to have repeat football games, repeat basketball. It did not have enough live content. So what that does is your ad rates, boom. Your national advertisers, your regional advertisers, they want to put their advertising during live content, sports live content. They do not want to put it on during a talking segment. Your ad rates just plummet. Longhorn Network's ad rates were horrific. Disney was bleeding out. ESPN loved the idea of Texas going to the Southeastern Conference and then bundling their content, their great brand with the Southeastern Conference Network brand. It's just one massive example after another. Notre Dame is a standalone, but they have their, as a football program, but they have their Olympic sports in with the ACC network because it wouldn't work alone. And their top tier football barely works. They struggle to make it work. They struggle to keep up with the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. We'll see how this phone call works here.
Call from
Jose Fight On. Now, can anybody hear Jose? Go ahead and talk. Yell at me. Yell about my Gophers. Go ahead, sir.
I cannot believe that you're going to be eating cheeseburgers if this AQ doesn't go through. Was the deadline by December 1st? Otherwise, you're eating a cheeseburger.
December 1st will probably be the last live show we ever do. People can hear you, Jose, so I appreciate it. Yeah.
You fixed it. All right.
I don't know if I didn't fix nothing. I can't fix nothing. You know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a concerted effort online where they keep referring to it as public equity, and from what I understand, that the public capital, to try to explain it to folks. One of my majors was finance.
Yeah.
Kind of like you buy stock. If you go on Fidelity or TV,
Yes.
you buy some stock. You're going into a venture capital venture with that company that you bought stock on. If, say, that stock triples, you've now tripled your investment. If that stock crashes, all you've lost is the $100, the $1,000, whatever you put in to that stock is all you've lost. Your home is fine, your family's fine. Where private equity is, you're mortgaging your home. You're taking a loan, a $200,000 loan against your home. If your investment crashes, you could potentially lose your home. And your family's got to be kicked out of there. So that's the difference between private equity versus public capital. It's two different animals. They're nothing like each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's intentional the way they're doing it. The reporters online, they keep referring it to public equity.
I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is an intention. I don't know what's going on, but the Big Ten is hot about it. They think that the college football reporters are dealing from the bottom of the deck, not from the top of the deck. They're not being real on this. You can be against this deal, obviously, but you don't have to spread all this disinformation about the deal. And they have. You're not going to, if you do this deal, if USC does this deal, if the 18 schools get together and does this deal, 20 years from now, there's a possibility that USC might come out a little bit behind on this deal, right? That the Big Ten enterprises did not generate the money that everyone thought. Or USC might make a little bit more on the deal, or a lot more on the deal. But what isn't going to happen is Jose's not going to walk in to buy a donut, to have a coffee at the USC Athletic Village, and there are going to be signs all over UC Investment, we own this building. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. A lot of people, the wolf, you got the wolf in the door, the foot's in the, and all this other baloney that they're putting out there on a daily basis, and they're never going to stop, it looks like. But go ahead, Jose. They're not.
In the first place, even about the universities. So that's where their disingenuous is coming through. That they really, anyways. But so I was thinking about at the start of your show with Kiffin. Was the term tarmac coined when with what Pat Hayden did?
I don't know. Was that the start of it?
I think so. I mean, I was looking online. I don't think I've ever heard anyone use that word before Lane was tarmac after losing to Stanford. We were 3-2 at the time. We were going through heavy near-death penalty sanctions. I mean, what he was dealing with. He was doing a great job to even be 3-2 at that point. We'd lost a lot of recruits because of the sanctions, the bowl ban, postseason ban. A lot of the recruits, our top recruits, had left, but Lane was still winning games. I mean, we just lost one tough road game, but that's what it was at the time. It's the Pac-10 had been playing 9 conference games forever, and then we had USC also had Notre Dame schedule, so we were playing 10 P5 at the time opponents every year. I mean, our schedule was not easy. And for what Lane was still doing during that time, he was doing a fantastic job. And I don't know what got into, Lynn Swan and Pat Hayden's ear, but it was just absurd what they did to him.
Now,
I always felt bad for him.
yeah. And now discussing this USC team, I'm pretty high on the Trojans. I was pretty high on them last year. What do you think, man? If they beat Oregon, let's say they beat Oregon by a touchdown.
Well,
Are they in? Are they going to be in? Huh?
We're getting our RB1 back if we make it to the playoffs. Wayman Jordan he should be back for the UCLA game.
Yeah.
But we're getting our top running back for the postseason. So that running game will be even more dangerous
Wow.
than it's already been. But yeah, it's our defense really is it's gelled together. It's similar to that Wink Martindale amoeba, 2-4-4-2 hybrid defense.
Mm-hmm.
Where the personnel is 3-3, the formation appears to be 4-2, but it's set up to confuse quarterbacks, so they don't know which linebacker is blitzing, and it takes a little while to learn it. The defense has really progressed now. Dan Lynn was catching a lot of heat there for a while in midseason, not making second half adjustments, and now he's begun to do that. And we've almost shut. I think we've been shutting out. We've been holding teams without a touchdown in the second half the last 3 weeks, if I recall.
Yeah.
Adjustments that Dan Lynn is making. But yeah, you do not want USC making it to the playoffs.
Nope.
With the defense, they're going to continue to get better defensively. We're going to get our RB1 back. This is going to be trouble if the Trojans make it to the playoffs.
Yeah. And with your RB1 back and King Miller and whoo, I tell you, that offense. Yeah.
And even Jay Maiava has grown. He threw
Maiava,
pick rolling out to the sideline. He didn't throw it away.
Yep.
He tried to make a play, and Lincoln just told him, "Hey, man, don't be a hero. Just run out of bounds. Live to play another down."
Yeah.
And he's been doing that ever since that last bad interception he threw, and he's just grown. And now we're getting in the. I haven't seen any of his games, but he's getting his legs under him. He's starting to run. I don't know why we held off for so long, maybe just to hold the cards closer to the vest.
Yep.
But now he's sneaking out the back now and hurting and gashing opponents when they're focusing too much on King Miller. He's sneaking out the back and running for 60 yards.
What time is that game on tomorrow?
3:30. It's on CBS.
Yeah, that's
a good one.
Yeah, that's right when the wedding starts. Well, yeah, I might have to. I might have to pull the old.
Take a bathroom break.
Well, I can't. I better not. The evil not the evil badger. The little general might be watching. So I love you, honey. I can't wait. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Let's go. All right. Thank you, Jose.
If you're listening, little generals, no portar bien, Greg. No te enojes con él.
There you go. All right.
A little bit of the game.
Got it.
All right, Gilbert Godfather. Thanks so much. Fight on.
Fight on. Appreciate it. Beautiful call by Jose. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. We've got the Evil Badger. The Evil Badger super chat. Evil Badger's trying to kill me. Evil Badger is trying to kill the fat guy from Minnesota. Evil Badger, make it a double cheeseburger because the axe is coming home to Madison. And not White Castle. Not White Castle, Evil Badger. This is what I'm going to do, Evil Badger. This is what I'm going to do. Because of your incredible generosity in your friendship and taking all of my Golden Gophers elbows, this is my official announcement on December 1st. Because the Big Ten and the SEC are not going to have those 4 automatic qualifiers each in a large playoffs, that I said was a fait accompli. It was a report. not a prediction. It was a report, and I'm going to take the big fat L. And then the SEC totally went, they flipped on the Big Ten. Anyway, we're not going to go down that road. I'm just saying, because I was completely wrong, and I'm going to take the L, I have to eat a double cheeseburger. And Evil Badger, I'm going to make that double cheeseburger from Wisconsin's own Culver's. And I'm going to eat the double cheeseburger from Culver's. All right? I think that would satisfy everybody. Double cheeseburger from Culver's. And that will probably be the last live show that I can do, because I will be in the hospital, and the funeral will be the following Thursday. All right. Thank you, Evil Badger. I appreciate your generosity. Congrats to everyone who will earn good losses this week in Alabama beating Eastern Illinois, because it just means more. And Lane is going to LSU, in my opinion, and I agree with you, Rockin' Man. I think he ends up in LSU. I think that Keith Carter letter to everybody was written with the idea that Lane Kiffin is leaving, because I think the letter would have been written differently if Lane Kiffin was staying, or if there was still indecision. That's just my opinion. And I think he ends up going to LSU. And this whole time I thought Lane Kiffin would be going to Florida. So I have flipped my Lane Kiffin commitment. Congrats to everyone who earned good losses. Thank you, Rock and Rant. Thank you for your membership. And again, whatever happens this weekend, whatever happens next weekend, and whatever happens during conference championship weekend, I am praying for absolute playoff chaos. Playoff chaos. Playoff chaos. Thank you, Rock and Rant. Thank you for your membership. 22 months. Holy smokes. You are officially knighted, my friend. Cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger. Wow. Wow. All right, guys. I think we're going to call it. I want to thank everybody who has donated to this channel today to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Ricky Tungate, Christopher Hooter, John Till, Opie D. Don, Cope, Kenneth Maynor, the Evil Badger, Jose, and Rock and Rant. I appreciate all of you for your donation to this channel. I appreciate the phone calls and all the comments. And again, tomorrow, it looks like we will not be doing a watch party. For the first time, we won't be doing a watch party during a Friday, Saturday weekend, because I'm going to a wedding. Unless I can get home and we can do a live watch party late Saturday night, tomorrow night. I'm going to do what I can from my end, but I gotta be honest. I am not in control of the situation. I'm definitely not in control of the situation. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And the wedding is kind of far away. So, but if I get home in time, I'm going to be itching to do a watch party. And I do not care if it's Eastern Washington State versus Utah State A&M. By the way, Ryder Lyons, a very good high school quarterback. I have watched his tape. I watched it when he committed to BYU. He is going to the Oregon USC game. Oregon Ducks are trying to flip Ryder Lyons. Lyons, Lyons, the 4-star commit for BYU. Oregon is trying to flip him. Very good tape. We'll see if Oregon is successful in that. Look, BYU has a quarterback for the next 3 years. They've got Superman, who does not wear a cape, Bear Bachmeier. So BYU is good for the next 3 years. Obviously, they're going to want a backup quarterback, a third stringer, but their starting quarterback is going to be Bear Bachmeier. So this is not boo-hoo-hoo on, this ain't, I don't blame Mr. Lyons for trying to figure out another spot. BYU, Bear Bachmeier is the dude. And he looks like a quarterback who won't be, knock on wood, he ain't a type of, that kid is tough, man. He's bulky. He can run people over. He avoids people. Bear Bachmeier is the present and future at BYU. But keep an eye out for Ryder Lyons recruiting. See where he ends up. Lyons won't be he won't be available to 2027. Thank you for the information, BYU football. Appreciate it. All right, guys. I don't know when I see you next. Hopefully tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, we're going to be doing our Aftermath show on Sunday. So until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden Gophers.